The millionaire life of Chief Keef is so extravagant that the man has his own personal blunt roller. Not a friend helping out, not someone pulling double duty on other tasks. A dedicated full-time employee whose entire job description begins and ends with making sure his blunts are rolled and ready around the clock. And that's not even close to the most jaw-dropping part of how this man lives. To understand how Chief Keef got here, you have to go back to Englewood, one of the toughest neighborhoods on Chicago's South Side. Keith Farrell Cozart was raised by his grandmother, Margaret Carter, in the Parkway Gardens housing project, in an environment defined by poverty and gun violence. Most kids who grew up where he grew up never found a way out. He found music. What made his story remarkable wasn't just talent, it was timing and authenticity. While still a teenager under house arrest, Chief Keef was uploading videos to YouTube that were reaching hundreds of thousands of people, with no manager, no label, no marketing budget. Just a camera and a sound that didn't sound like anything else on the internet at that moment. The 2012 release of I Don't Like, alongside Lil Reese, didn't just introduce a new song, it introduced an entire genre. Chicago drill was suddenly on the map, and Keef was holding the flag. Within weeks, Kanye West reached out personally and remixed the track, and suddenly the whole industry had its eyes on a 16-year-old from Englewood. Interscope Records moved fast, signing him to a deal reportedly worth around $6 million. And his debut album, Finally Rich, dropped later that year to strong sales. Overnight, Keef wasn't just a kid from Chicago anymore. He was a certified name in hip-hop, and other cities started developing their own drill scenes directly inspired by what he'd started. But early success came with complications. Major label deals have a way of making artists rich on paper while keeping them creatively boxed in. And Keef felt that tension fast. Release schedules dictated by executives, marketing decisions that didn't reflect his vision. That experience taught him something that became the foundation of every smart move he made afterward. Ownership is everything. Once that clicked, he parted ways with Interscope and started building structures he controlled instead of ones controlling him. He founded Glory Boys Entertainment early on, bringing up artists like Fredo Santana, Tado, and Lil Reese as a genuine collective. Then, in 2014, he rebranded and launched Glow Gang as his primary creative and business home. Not just a label, but a movement that eventually extended into clothing and lifestyle products people genuinely wanted to be connected to. By 2022, he took it further, partnering with RBC Records and BMG Rights Management to launch 43B, a stylized version of Forget Everybody, a label built to develop emerging artists using everything he'd learned the hard way over a decade of trial and error. Now let's actually get into what day-to-day life looks like inside this empire, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Chief Keef's daily existence has been built entirely around freedom, privacy, and creative output. There's no commute, no schedule imposed by anyone else, no noise he didn't choose to let in. His Los Angeles residence is a 5,000 square foot property with 5 master bedrooms, a full pool, and serious privacy built into the square footage itself. He's also owned a mansion in Tarzana and maintained properties in Atlanta over the years. But what actually defines these homes isn't just the size. It's what's built inside them. Recording studios woven directly into his living space, so when inspiration hits at 2 a.m., the booth is 30 seconds away instead of 30 minutes across town. Custom interiors, gaming setups, entertainment spaces where he can host and create without ever leaving his own property. The home functions as studio, office, and sanctuary all at once. The car collection tells a similar story. Ferraris, Bentleys, and other high-performance machines that reflect a genuine passion rather than just status symbols. Then there's the jewelry, estimated at over $5 million custom diamond chains, high-end watches, diamond grills that make a statement from across the room. For Keef, the jewelry isn't subtle by design. It's a visual extension of the identity that's defined him since he first stepped into public view. The business side is what actually keeps all of this moving. Glow Gang has evolved into what industry observers now call an independent major structure. The creative freedom of an indie label combined with the reach of something far more organized. Glow Gang worldwide has grown into a real streetwear brand with a cult following and a flagship retail presence in LA, including a collaboration with True Religion that pushed his aesthetic into the mainstream streetwear conversation. And the music has never stopped generating. Reports indicate he pulls around 3 million daily streams on Spotify across his solo and collaborative catalog, with his 2024 project Almighty so too, landing as proof his connection with fans hadn't weakened a bit since his initial breakout. That catalog is essentially passive income running in the background every hour of every day, funding the lifestyle and the label operations regardless of what else is happening. Now, about that blunt roller, because it's genuinely one of the most talked about details in any conversation about his lifestyle, and it makes sense why. Chief Keef reportedly consumes around 2 ounces of cannabis daily, which works out to somewhere between 5 and 12 large blunts depending on the day. Sourcing and rolling that quantity consistently is a time-consuming, repetitive task that would interrupt basically anything else you were trying to do. So he did what any self-made millionaire with the resources would do and hired someone specifically to handle it. This isn't someone juggling multiple responsibilities who also rolls blunts on the side. It's a dedicated position built around one task, keeping his day running exactly how he wants while he's in the studio, reviewing merchandise designs, or on label calls. And honestly, that's not unusual once you're at his level. It just sounds unusual because of what the task itself is. Tech billionaires have personal chefs preparing every meal to a specific nutritional standard. Executives have assistants managing their schedules down to the minute. Athletes have recovery specialists whose only job is keeping one person in peak condition. The principle is always the same. Your time and mental energy are your most valuable resources, and once you've reached a certain level, protecting those resources means delegating everything someone else can handle. The personal blunt roller isn't a punchline. It's a genuinely specific illustration of what financial freedom looks like in practice. A typical day unfolds entirely at his own pace. Mornings at home, no commute, no boss, a blunt already rolled and waiting before he even has to think about it. He moves into the studio when inspiration calls rather than when an appointment forces him to, and because the studio is inside his house, that transition costs him nothing. When the creative work winds down, business takes over, reviewing new Glow Gang drops, checking in with 43B artists, planning release strategy without running any of it through a label executive who's never lived where he's lived. There's a real difference between an artist who makes music and a CEO who happens to make music, and Chief Keef is very much the second thing. His influence on the culture is hard to overstate. There's an entire generation of rappers who point to him directly as the reason they picked up a mic, and the sonic DNA of Chicago drill has worked its way into mainstream pop, UK drill, and corners of global music far beyond where it started. What makes that influence particularly powerful from a business standpoint is that it's kept generating relevance long after a lot of his contemporaries faded out. His name carries weight as an active force in the culture, not just a nostalgic reference point. Financial independence has fundamentally changed how he operates. He doesn't need a label to fund a session because he records at home. He doesn't need to tour exhaustively to survive because the catalog generates income around the clock on its own. And because his revenue is spread across music ownership, merchandise, label operations, and brand partnerships, no single stream has to carry the entire weight of his lifestyle. A level of financial engineering most artists never actually achieve, built entirely on a decision made years ago to prioritize ownership over convenience. What makes people so genuinely fascinated by all of this is the distance it represents. He grew up in circumstances that statistically don't produce millionaires, in a neighborhood defined by scarcity and violence, and the path from Parkway Gardens to a multi-million-dollar property in Los Angeles isn't just a long distance, it's practically a different universe. When people react to a detail like the blunt roller, they're really reacting to the totality of that journey, and to the fact that he built something this complete without ever abandoning the identity that made people connect with him in the first place. So drop a comment below and let us know what surprised you most about Chief Keef's lifestyle.